Good day, everyone. How are you? Today, we have a guest, Julien Richard, here. He's a cybersecurity professional. He's going to be walking us through devzat. So I'll let him introduce himself. Just go ahead when you're ready, Julien.
So I'm just going to introduce myself again really quickly. You saw the slides. You were probably reading it while trying to do some lip reading. But yeah, my name is Julien. I'm here in Atlantic Canada. I'm in the Greater Moncton area, and I'm a cybersecurity professional, security manager, pen tester, and I'm the founder of the Atlantic Cybersecurity Collective, as well as my own corporation called BCK Security. Got a few certs, in the consulting game. Certs are king. So the ones that are really relevant to what we're doing today is the OSCP, CRTP, and CEH. Everything else is mostly around governance. I'm a dad to two humans, two cats, and one dog. I'm happily married with a wife, and did a bit of volunteering with Cyber Titans, Canadian Ski Patrol. Those things are a bit on hold right now because of COVID. But the collective used to be in a OWASP chapter, so a bit of volunteering there. And as you can see, I'm in my cave right now, but I also like to be outdoors. So as soon as I get started here, I'm going to go off camera. Um, but I just want to talk a little bit about this box and what you're going to see tonight. One of the reasons I picked devzat is because I feel it feels true to life up to a certain points, and it also has a lot of really cool um, different tools that you need to use and different techniques. When I say true to life, it's mostly around the fact that and you'll see, but it feels like a built in-house built application that we're trying to hack. And as some of you probably know, if you're building stuff in-house, sometimes you make mistakes. This app feels a bit like something, it was a small little project that they worked on and they kind of forgot about it. And I've ran into that at different companies. In one instance, which felt a lot like this, was in-house built CMS, so a customer management system that they try to build in-house. uh, they dropped that project, but there were some crumbs left over, and we were able to basically go in and use that as a vector into the infrastructure. So that's how devzat feels to me. And like I said, there's different things that you need to do. Another thing I really like about the box is that, as opposed to most of the stuff that HackTheBox does, there's you don't just go from user root. You have to do some lateral movement into a second user to be able to actually escalate your privileges to root. So I thought that was pretty nifty. So yeah, I'm just gonna go off camera here, and if I can figure out how, and then we're just gonna start hacking here. It's gonna be some fun. Um, just one moment. I gotta find my Zoom and turn off my camera. There it is. Okay, sorry, couldn't find the link. All right, so let's get started. Spun up devzat. As you can see, I'm a HackTheBox VIP. I connected through my VPN here, as we can see. And so the first thing that I do, of course, in HackTheBox, I'm just, it makes things a lot easier if I grab the IP and just add it to my host file. So I'm just going to do that right now. I should have done that before, but everybody's going to be able to see what I do. So let's add it to my host file so I don't need to type the IP all the time. So now that it's in my host file, I should be able to ping devzat.htb, and it should resolve to that IP. I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm going to do a lot of typing mistakes. And one thing I want to bring to everybody's attention whenever I do these types of walkthroughs is that it's going to take me about maybe an hour to get through this. It didn't take me an hour initially to get this. It took a few days of banging my head against the wall. So right now I know exactly what path to take to get to root. But with anything else, as you know, if you've ever played with some of these boxes, it can take a while sometimes to go down rabbit holes and try to figure out what's going on. So I don't want anybody here to think that it takes an hour to hack a box like this, because it takes way longer than that. So let me get started here. We're just going to do a really quick nmap scan. I'm not even going to do anything else other than nmap at this point. In reality, I would probably be scanning all ports in the background. I would be doing a whole other bunch of stuff, but in just so that we have enough sanity and time, I'm just going to go and straight into what I want to do. So what are we looking at here? Website. Of course, when I see a website, I go straight to the website. And let's see what's going on here. So where devs are at, or devzat, the devs are at. It's pretty funky. So what am I looking at here? Chat. So it looks like they have some type of chat application. These, if I look at the status bar at the bottom here, they don't go anywhere else. They're just going to spin me down the page. I'm just going to keep scrolling here. So, oh, the app is high quality and coded by me personally, so it has to be good. Trust me. I'm a trusting guy, but I like to verify stuff. Post file contents, interesting. Let's remember this, right? If you can post files, then obviously it's something we might want to do. And looks like they are certified Diamond Standard. Awesome. That's pretty cool. Why should we use this? One thing that made me laugh here is they're talking about user growth, 1,276. Is that percent? Is that number of users? Like what's that number? I have no clue. Oh, and they've got like a 1,024 diamond standard, whatever that means. 2 branches. That's interesting. Right away, I'm thinking Git. It's being developed in its own branch aside from stable release. So probably a dev branch, a stable branch. That's really interesting to me. Again, trust me. Hey, I don't. That's fine. So everything we need to do is with an SSH client. Oh, look at that. Okay. So I can SSH and start chatting, I guess. So we'll try that later on, but in 2 seconds, I should say, but I'm just going to keep scrolling. And we've got Patrick at devzat. I'm going to remember that. I'm just going to copy this over. I'll copy it over to my other screen here. You won't see this, but I'm going to remember that there's a person that's working here. This is called Patrick. All these links are all, they're not going anywhere. All right, so let's try this. See where this brings me. Screen. And just Cabby. Cabby was my nickname in college because we're a whole bunch of friends and I was the only one that had a car. So basically they started calling me Cabby and it stuck. All right, so I joined the chat. There's a dev bot. That's fun. I'm the only one in there. See what happens. La la la. Try to run commands. Oh, that's funny. I didn't even know that would work. Interesting. If I do cat, nothing. So, oh, /help. Whole bunch of commands. Got a GitHub page here. This was a bit of a rabbit hole. I went and looked into this GitHub repo. We can look at it if you want to, but promise you that there's nothing much there that I could find anyways. Bunch of stuff. It's written in Go. It's good to know. But yeah, I spent a bit of time here looking at code and whatnot, and basically it's a bit of a rabbit hole. Not sure if other people have done this and they're screaming at the screen saying like, "Hey, no, there's something there." But anyways, that was not my path. List of commands. So let's see. Whole bunch of list of commands or a whole bunch of stuff that you can see. I kind of like example dash code just shows you stuff again. If spent so much time on here just looking at this, um, it just there's nothing here basically. You would think, especially with example code, that um, you would think that there's something in there. If I go ID, there's some hashing there. So there's a whole bunch of ways here that I think I could do command injection, but I just couldn't find anything. So this was a good day of playing around and trying to figure this out. Now, one thing that I always need to remember when you're going down rabbit holes and I'm doing a box like this is go back to the basics, right? What else can I do here? So I can do directory busting to see if there's other places in this website or anything like that. We can look at the source code, see if there's look at the source code to see if there's anything in here. There wasn't. I did a directory buster on devzat.htb, couldn't find anything. But the place that finally unlocked me, and like I said, this was a long time, was actually running a virtual host, looking for different virtual hosts. So I just copied a command here. I'll just go through it right now. So um, I like, um, I don't even know how to pronounce this, fuff. uh, Tony, do you know how to pronounce fuff?
Yeah, it's fuzz faster, you fool.
Oh, there you go. It's written in Go. It's really fast. It's pretty awesome.
It's really what
Um,
it is, though.
that's awesome. It's funny. So yeah, I find it works a lot better. And all I'm doing here is I'm trying to fuzz, or I'm trying to do a brute force to look for a whole bunch of subdomains. So a subdomain is something that's written on in front of devzat. In this case, let's say that it would be cabby.devzat.htb. I don't know it exists, so I kind of need to run through a whole bunch of subdomains. In this case, I'm running through 500 of them. Um, this command here is basically because every single one is going to give me an HTTP 200. So it's a legit place. All it does, it redirects me to that front page. So I have to tell it that the word count. So, well, let's just run it without that. Let's just see what happens. Sorry, I'm going to actually match the code. I actually want to match the code 200. I got my walkthrough backwards here. So I want to match whatever is a code 200 because everything else is going to be a 404. So I'm just going to run through it, see if I hit something. Again, like I said, it took me a long time to get here, but eventually we're going to find a subdomain. And it has absolutely nothing to do with chatting. It's called pets. I actually talked to Tony today to say, hey, were there any hints or anything like that? And we couldn't find any hints anywhere. And you're going to run into a real pen test also, right? There's just another website on this web server and it's through a subdomain. So enumeration is very, very important. So I'm going to go ahead, add this to my host file. It's the same IP, right? So I'm just going to do this so that I can hit it. And let's go and visit that site. All right. So I can trash some stuff. Oh, no, I can't. Not implemented yet. So what can I do? It's an inventory of pets. Awesome. I have two. This guy is pretty brave. He even has a giraffe. Awesome. So let's see what we can do here. Let's add a pet. Hey, I got a blue whale called, I don't know, Moby. Isn't that a white whale? Whatever. And I've added Moby. That's fine. Just going to spin up. I should have spun up before. I'm just going to spin up Burp Suite Pro, which is a proxy which intercepts traffic. and just to play around, just see what's going on in the background. It's going to load here. While I'm doing that, oh, there it is. Again, another thing that I do right away when I get a new website, I just like to look for um, I just like to look for new directories or whatnot or what's going on. So I'm just going to use the fast fuzzer again, use the common file. Now this is the part where I was saying earlier that everything's going to resolve. So if I run this, everything is going to be, status 200, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to filter out a size because I know, just go in and see what's happening when I do this. So let's just do this. All it does, it redirects me back to the front page. So anything that I put after the slash here is just going to resolve back and give me the same page. So I need to say, and this page is 510 bytes or kilobytes or whatever this number is. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to filter out that 510. Chances are, if there's another site or another directory that exists here, it's not going to be the same size as this one. So I just want to filter out everything that's the size 510. So I'm just going to let this run. Oh, well, there you go. Somebody left their .git directory. It's pretty awesome, isn't it? And remember when we looked at the front page here and I said something around Git because they're saying that there's different branches and whatnot. So Git's a pretty good place to start. But let's just see what happens when I intercept the request. And let's just see what's happening underneath the plumbing, right? Oh no. Okay, I said oh no because my machine was starting to get pretty slow. So let's try to delete and let's try to add a pet. What's my cat's name? Cat's name is Felix. Oh no, I gave away all my security questions. What's your cat's name? Felix. And then you're gonna hack into my bank account. Not smart. Burp. And there's my post, and all it does, it's a JSON request. So it gives the name that I put in and the species, and then it just says that the pet was added successfully. Okay, that's all it does. It's an API, right? So it posts to an API, and then it does whatever it needs to do in the back end. But the cool thing is that I found a .git directory. And that's usually pretty juicy. There you go. Let's look at objects. See how there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. So if I have access to the Git directory, like if I look at this file, it's just gonna, no, that's just gonna crash me. It's just gonna be garbage.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you can go back in time with that, right? If you
yeah, exactly. So what I want to do is in the Git directory, you have all the code and everything that the actual application uses, right? And this is one of the cool parts about this box is that I'm going to go in and do a tiny bit of code review just to see what's going on. So that's one of the techniques. So we looked at enumeration through vhosts or subdomains. We did enumerations through directory busting, and now we're going to be doing grabbing some Git stuff and doing a bit of code review. So there's a tool that you can do anytime you see a .git directory. There's a pretty awesome set of tools. They're called Git tools. And there's 3 different tools. One is to find .git directories, Git Finder. I'm not going to use that one. But there's a cool tool called Dumper, which is actually going to go and grab that .git stuff and pull it down to your own computer. So then you can then extract some code and whatnot. What's in that directory. So I'm just going to go ahead and dump that whole thing. And let me just grab my command. So I would install this set of tools, just doing a git clone and installing it. It's fairly easy to do. There should be a setup here somewhere. Maybe not, but if you ever installed anything from Git, you can get it. I think there might even be a pip command to do it. But anyways, I have those tools installed right now. Let's see, I have nothing in my directory here. Well, there's a hint, right? InfluxDB. And my git dumper commands is under my own directories under tools, git tools, dumper, git dumper sh. I give it the website that I want to use, and I'm going to dump it in a directory called pets, where I am right now, which is under documents htb devzat. So let me just grab all of that stuff and let's see if it works. Yeah, so you can see it's downloading the whole thing, right? It'll take a little while.
That's nice because then you get everything if they pushed a password or
Yeah,
API key or anything, and they deleted it, you'll see it because you're going back in time with that, right?
yeah, exactly. And that's the first thing that comes to mind. First thing that comes to mind when you get and especially CTFs and HackTheBox and try Hack Me and all those fun places, they really love to use passwords that were in a Git merge or in a Git push,
You see that
and
a
then
lot,
people
a
went
lot
in.
in bug bounties, so I guess
Yeah,
that's why.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so I have everything now. That's all junk because I, I'll be honest. I'm not a Git expert. I know how to use it, but I'm not 100%. I don't understand 100% what's going on in the background. But right now, I have the full Git repo. But what I want to do is take all of that and extract all the code um, that's stored in my repo. So if I go under pets, there's a .git directory in here. If I go into my .git, it's the same thing that's on the website, right? It's the exact same thing. Commit, ed, branches, same thing. So you go back one directory, and I'm going to use a tool that's with this same tool set. And that might not be the right command, but we'll see. So I'm going to extract whatever's in this Git repo. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Now you can see there's fonts, there's all kinds of stuff uh, in here. So that's the actual code. So I dropped it in the Git directory, and let's just go to the first one here. And it's a Go command again. It's a Go application, and if you understand a little bit of Go, or even a little bit of programming, will know that whenever you see main, that's probably where the bulk of the program is. So I'm just going to have a look at main. And like Tony said, I did have a look at all the Git pushes and everything else to see if I could find passwords or anything in there. But um, that's something that you should definitely be doing. I'm going to go straight to the solution here because we're already 32 minutes in. But let me just cat the file. So code review, I mean, it should be pretty apparent to anybody who's done some code what the problem is here. I'm just going to go to the start of the file. And this file starts here. So what we're doing, we're importing a bunch of packages. We're setting some variables, setting some more variables. And we have this, which should absolutely raise eyebrows. So I'm just going to copy this and go into my text editor and bring it in, and so that we can play around with it. So what is this doing? This is calling this command sh minus c. So run cat characteristics slash, and then whatever species is, right? The variable species. So let's say that I pick cat. So it's going to run, well, it's not, let's do giraffe because cat is going to become a bit confusing. But what this command does, it basically runs cat characteristics in giraffe. Anytime you run a command, you know that you can concatenate commands, or you can do ands or ors or stuff like that. So what happens if I do this? Ping Google. So it's going to run the cat command, which is print out whatever's in this file. And after that, just go ahead and ping Google. So we're looking at command and execution here. This is something that you could probably have found just by fuzzing the application and looking at the API, looking at this command here. But looking at the code, you can see clearly how it works. So I'm going to take this, which was my post. I'm going to send it over to repeater. Repeater is, I just want to repeat this command, and I'm going to want to edit it. So if we go back to my file here, and in this case, I'm doing cat, it's going to run shc cat, or take whatever is here. It's probably hard to see, but it's going to take whatever I send and put it in here. So what happens if I do cat and run a command? Let's go sleep 2. My last command took 92 milliseconds to run. So I'm expecting this one, if I have command execution, to take 2.100 milliseconds approximately to run. So let's send it over. And it took exactly 2.76. So let's change this to 5 seconds, see what happens. I'm counting, and it is 5.3. So we've got command execution, right? Which means that I can run commands on the underlying operating system. So the first thing that comes to mind, again, is quite simply reverse shell. So I should be able to run an ncat command and catch a shell here on my own machine. Little bit of a rabbit hole again. There's something that is filtering the netcat or the bash command or whatever else in the background. There's something that's filtering it. So I'm not going to go through the details, but you need to obfuscate your reverse shell. Tony, did you have to do this? Do you have your notes for this machine?
I'll be honest. Now that you're that far into it, I don't think I went this far. To be fair.
Okay. So the command that I'm going to use is just the your basic reverse shell, the bash reverse shell one-liner, which looks like this. Oh, that's ugly. Okay, that. So it looks like this. Now that's not going to work. I can put it in. We can have a look, but we'll see that it's not going to work. I don't know the exact details as to why it's not working, but I banged my head against this a long time, because once you have command and execution, I mean, you should be good to go, right? But let's just look at this. I'm just going to push this over there to see when it catches. If I send this, I'm just not catching anything. So it took me a long time to figure out that I needed to obfuscate my shell, because something was not allowing it to run. And the way I did it was quite simply, I'm just going to take that command and I'm going to encode it in base64. So as you can see, it's the same command. I'm just echoing it to base64. It's going to give me a base64 string. And I'm basically going to echo that. Yeah. I'm basically, let me just pull this up here. So I'm basically going to echo that string that I just put in, decode it with B64 and run it with bash. And that's going to work. I'm laughing because it just took me so long. And I'd be interested if any of you try this box and you want to play around and try to figure out another way to do it that's not as convoluted. I'd be really interested in knowing what's going on, but that's a bit of a head shaker. So as soon as I run this, it's gonna basically, I'm gonna be able to catch a shell. There it is. Caught it right away. Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. I guess there's something either filtering the IP address or.
Yeah, there's just something that's catching that shell and not letting you do it. Maybe that's part of the medium box. But anyways, hey, this works. It just took me a long time to figure it out. So right now I'm just in a reverse shell. So first thing that I do, if it's there, I'm just going to grab the IDRSA file just so I can SSH into it directly instead of having this crappy shell. Put it in. Let's mode that to. Okay, so all I did is I grabbed the SSH private key so that I can actually SSH in as Patrick. So I'm going to SSH directly in it. It's going to give me a much more stable machine. So there you go. So I'm in. What's in here? No user file, right? There's no user file. So that's not my user. Sorry, it's taking a glass of water here. So let's look who's in home. So we have Catherine.
Did you want to take a break now or?
Oh, that's fine. I'm gonna go in and get to user.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask a question. I know you can answer, Tony. Is anybody following along and trying to do this as I go along? If so, I know I'm going pretty fast because it's a pretty there's a lot of steps.
Haven't seen any comments. There's
Okay.
a couple watching, but like I say, there's a couple of minute delay, so it might take them a while before
Okay.
they
Well,
answer.
just go ahead and say it when you hear it.
Yeah.
So I need to get to Catherine. So one thing I didn't do earlier, and I apologize, and that should have been part of the steps. It was part of the steps that I did was try to SSH as Patrick, because if you remember, excuse me, if you remember in the website, there's a guy called Patrick, and you need to give a username here. So one of the things that I did when I first did this box is I try to get in as Patrick. And this is what it gave me as an error. It says reserved for local use, right? You can't SSH as Patrick remotely. You need to be on the box itself to be able to get the Patrick. So as soon as I got into the box here, I had that in the back of my mind. So what the hell's going on with if I SSH as Patrick? So if I go local host, port 8000, is there a minus P? Yeah, there's a minus P. Because that was a pretty big hint, right? That's a pretty nice breadcrumb. And as soon as I log in, it'll allow me to log in. And I had Patrick's chat history, which is pretty interesting because it's giving me breadcrumbs. I never used LinPAS or LinPiece or whatever you want to call it on this box because I had all the breadcrumbs. The first breadcrumb was basically saying, hey, you can't log in as Patrick. You need to be on the local box. As soon as I got it on the local box, I logged in as Patrick because that was a hint. Now that I know that Catherine exists, I'm going to try to log in as Catherine also. But this is pretty interesting. The admin is saying that they've set up InfluxDB. So I'm going to remember that. Now I'm going to try to get in as Catherine. And we've got Catherine's history. Now she's saying that there's a cool new feature and they've implemented it on the local dev instance, which is on port 8443. Breadcrumbs, right? Now, you'll need the password I gave you last time. And they basically left the source and backups. So we've got a few things here. We know InfluxDB is installed. We know there's a local dev instance of the chat on port 8443. And we know there's something with backups, right? They're basically giving us exactly what we need to do. So I'm going to connect as Patrick, but on port 8443 and see what that gives me. InfluxDB again, 175, right? I'm going to note that. InfluxDB 175, I'm going to note that and remember that. Now I'm going to log in as Catherine on this new dev instance and see what she was saying here. So they're still talking about that same feature. You'll need a password, which you can gather from the source. The source is in the default backup location, and they're basically giving us, they're basically, okay, so they're making it a lot easier, right? So they're basically telling us just do a diff between your main source code and the dev source code. And basically I should be able to get a password. So that's pretty awesome. All right. Default backup location. We're on Linux. Let's go backups, right? Is that the default location? I think so. Yeah. We've got our source code. So they're giving it away. Let's see. Oh, interesting. So yeah, I really do need to get to Catherine because she's the only one that can read these files. And I can't, right? No, I can't. So what was the other hint? InfluxDB. Let's see. It's running on this box. So we had 8443. What's 5,000? Those are all just our pet shops. Our dev chat was on port 8,000. We've got port 8086. What port does InfluxDB run on? Influx, I don't know if you can see, but InfluxDB port is on port 8086. Awesome. And InfluxDB was 1.75 that they gave us. Is there an exploit? InfluxDB before 176 has an authentication bypass vulnerability. Awesome. And what are we looking at here? It's a project. You got to pull the project and install it and then just run it. That seems pretty easy. So let's go ahead and clone this. Tony, is this going to work? Can I pull a project here?
If you pull the project? Yeah.
Why not? Yeah, because there's HackTheBox. There's no
there's no network. No.
There's no network. There's no public network. So what do you do when you have no public network and you need to access something locally? Because that's only listening locally. Well, you do SSH tunneling, right? Yeah. Let's just look at SSH tunneling. I'm just going to give a very, very, very brief explanation of what SSH tunneling is. It's pretty simple if you know what port forwarding is. Let's try to find a good thing here. Here's a good one. So if the green server here is only listening on port 80, I can access it through SSH. There is a way for me to open up a local port on my machine, and whatever traffic drops into that local port, it's going to tunnel through my SSH and actually hit port 80 on this side. So instead of hitting port 22, I can actually do a port forwarding. It's the same thing as networking with your home router or whatever else. It's something that you're going to be using a lot in pen testing because of this, because you can install stuff on the machine, the victim machine. So you need to install something on the attacker machine that needs to access a local port. on your victim machine. The best way to do it if you have SSH access is through SSH tunneling. And in this case, I'm just going to show the command here.
And what I like about it is that you don't have to open an extra port. That's what I like about
Exactly. So this is the command. SSH minus capital L just means that it's going to be a local port. And the local port that I want to use, I'm just going to use the same one, which is 8086 on my local host, which is going to tunnel to 8086 on devzat.htb. So whatever I hit on my local machine 8086 is not going to be consumed by my local machine. It's actually going to go through the tunnel and hit port 8086 on the other side. I don't know if I can explain it a lot better. It's getting late. Yeah, so I need to go under the IDRSA file is there. So as soon as I do this, it's actually going to open up. There's a way to do it so that it doesn't actually open up a shell, a prompt, but it's just easier this way. So now if I open up a new window and I telnet on my local host here to port 8086, it's actually going to open up a port. This port was not there before. So now what I can do, let me just delete this. So now what I can do is go into this exploit here, and I'm going to clone it on my local machine. So I'm going to clone it on my local machine, change into that directory. I'm going to do just install it. All pip does in this case is it looks at that requirements.txt document and install all the prerequisites to be able to run this project. They're already done. You'll see they're just going to say they're already fulfilled. They're already satisfied just because I ran it before, but it would have installed all these things so that the project works. And if we go back here, the usage is pretty simple. That's all it is. Oops. Oh, lovely. Python 3, probably. They probably upgraded it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Must want Python 3.
Yeah. So now let's remember. So InfluxDB was Influx 175, which is an authentication bypass. InfluxDB is just a database, quite simply. And in this case, right now it's going to ask me where the database is. Because I'm doing SSH tunneling, I need to hit my local host here on the port 8086. And he's going to ask me for a bunch of basically usernames to try to brute force the username. I downloaded something from seclists called names.txt. I know which one it is, but let's just run it through here and we're... Oh. Okay. Is it there? Oh, I don't have it here. All right, so let's go ahead and grab that. So we can see exactly what I did. So seclists is a list of just a bunch of payloads, right? It's just a bunch of stuff that was put together by Daniel Meisler. If you're not, that's the same Daniel Meisler that has the what is it, the weekly reading or whatever else. I think that's the same guy. So all I'm doing is I'm just grabbing a bunch of names, as you can see. Let me grab this file. All it is a bunch of names. And all this script does that I've installed is it's going to go through those list of names and see if we can log in with that name. I mean, what I would have probably done is put in Patrick, Catherine, a whole bunch of stuff, admin, user, all kinds of stuff like that. But I mean, let's just brute force it. else calls the names.txt. I'm just going to go through those names, right? It'll find one eventually. It's going to take a long time to get to Patrick. There it is. Exploit worked. I'm logged in. Fun, eh? I probably want to look at the devzat database. In the essence of time, here's the command. Took me a while to figure it out, but that's the command. I tried a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know InfluxDB, so I did a bit of research. But yeah, that's the command right there. Got 3 users: Mr. Willy Wonka, Willem, Charles, and Catherine. I mean, we want Catherine, right? Bear with me. We're gonna get to root really fast once we have this, but I'm gonna take a small break.
At least she got a secure password.
She's got to create. You're never ever going to crack that. There's no way. So yeah. So let's CHS Catherine. Interesting. So public key. So yeah, they don't let you log into the system with a password, unfortunately.